Welcome to this explainer. Okay, today we're going to do something just a little bit different. I am going to look directly into your soul. Seriously, I want you to clear your mind, get focused, and listen closely because I have a highly personalized reading just for you. Ready? Here we go. You have a great need for people to like and admire you. You care deeply about how you are perceived by others, and you often go out of your way to ensure you're making a good impression. And yet, you have a tendency to be kind of critical of yourself. You certainly have some personality weaknesses, but you generally know exactly how to compensate for those shortcomings. You have a great deal of unused capacity, which you have not yet turned to your advantage. At times, you are very outgoing, talkative, and sociable, while at other times, you're introverted, wary, and reserved. Some of your aspirations tend to be pretty unrealistic. So, did that feel accurate? Did you recognize yourself in that portrait? Well, here is the incredible plot twist. Every single person watching this explainer right now just resonated with the exact same, completely fake text. Okay, let's dive into this. What you just experienced is a psychological phenomenon that explains exactly why we all just got tricked. It's called the Barnum Effect. Basically, it's a cognitive bias where individuals believe that generic information, stuff that could apply to virtually anyone, applies specifically and uniquely to them. It's that spooky, eerie feeling you get when a horoscope perfectly describes your day, or a fortune cookie seems to know exactly what you've been stressing about all week. We filter this generalized information through the lens of our own subjective reality, and we end up convincing ourselves that it was tailored just for us. Section 1. The History of the Illusion. From the Circus to the Classroom. You know, this psychological trick isn't exactly new. In fact, it has been fooling the human mind for a really long time, evolving from carnival tents all the way to prestigious university classrooms. The effect actually gets its name from the famous 19th century American circus showman, P.T. Barnum. You probably know him for notoriously saying that a sucker is born every minute. Barnum was an absolute master at making massive audiences feel as if he was speaking directly to them, using these really broad, general statements. But it actually wasn't officially studied until 1948 by an American psychologist named Bertram R. Forer. Forer gave his psychology students a personality test, and he told them he'd provide highly personalized feedback based on their individual scores. Instead, he secretly gave every single student the exact same paragraph. Literally the very paragraph I just read to you at the beginning of this explainer, which, by the way, he just cobbled together from a newsstand astrology book. Later, in 1956, clinical psychologist Paul Meehl officially coined the term Barnum Effect, out of total frustration with other psychologists who were using these vague general statements to diagnose patients instead of offering individualized care. So, how well did Forer's 1948 classroom experiment actually work? Well, after Forer handed out that identical fake feedback, he asked his students to rate the accuracy of their so-called personalized profile on a scale from 0 to 5. The average score they gave it was a staggering 4.26. Think about that for a second. To put that into perspective, an entire classroom of bright psychology students believes that a generic block of text was an incredibly precise reflection of their innermost selves, without even second-guessing it. Section 2. Why we fall for it. The science of subjective reality. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that if you fell for the intro of this explainer, you really shouldn't feel bad. This isn't about being gullible. It's actually about the inner workings of our brain. Falling for this is biologically hardwired into us. As humans, we instinctively seek connection, and we deeply desire for our lives to be meaningful. So when we're faced with a vague statement, our brains automatically go into overdrive, trying to associate it with a specific example from our own life experience. We process this information through a positivity bias, known as the Pollyanna principle. Basically, subconsciously, we're biased to eagerly accept praise and swiftly reject criticism. If a personality profile tells you you're a generous, hardworking person with untapped potential, you are going to eagerly accept that as a highly accurate truth. But if it points out genuine, harsh flaws, you'll likely just brush it off as irrelevant nonsense. We desperately want to validate our own perspectives, so we eagerly absorb all the positive stuff. This all ties right into something called subjective validation, which is when we consider information to be correct simply because it holds personal significance to us. We end up subconsciously linking completely unrelated events together. And this pairs just perfectly with confirmation bias. If you already believe you're a hard worker and a horoscope praises your work ethic, your brain just hyper-focuses on that validation and basically ignores everything else. As psychiatrists note, the Barnum effect happens because we search a little too hard to find personal meaning in things that are fundamentally general or neutral. By design, our brain resists thinking too hard, right? So jumping to these easy, flattering conclusions actually saves us a ton of cognitive energy. Section 3. Everyday Illusions, Astrology, Algorithms, and Ads. Now, this science isn't just confined to some 1940s psychology classroom. We actually interact with the Barnum Effect every single day in the modern world. Astrologers, tarot card readers, and fortune tellers have relied on this trick for centuries. Take Susan Miller, for example. She's one of the most trafficked horoscope writers online. And she's famous for writing these lengthy, uplifting, but ultimately vague passages that thousands of people believe are written just for them. But today, the big technology companies are absolutely getting in on the act too. Think about Spotify's Discover Weekly or Netflix's Just For You recommendations. While these tech giants definitely do use machine learning to suggest content, the Barnum Effect heavily amplifies our perception that these feeds are hyper-personalized just for us. It gives us this sense of bespoke curation, making us feel valued and seen, even when the software is just generating largely generalized output from millions of users at the exact same time. And this brilliantly illustrates how clever marketers weaponize this cognitive bias. They'll throw out statements like, "You're a leader, not a follower, so you need a solution that matches your unique personality." Or, "Your life is chaotic, but this product will bring you the peace you deserve." I mean, come on, these statements could literally apply to anyone breathing, but they make the product seem uniquely tailored to you, which completely accelerates customer buy-in and builds crazy brand loyalty. Section 4. When Illusions Turn Dangerous, the Dark Side of Gullibility. So while reading a fortune cookie or enjoying your daily horoscope is perfectly harmless fun, we have to talk about how this cognitive bias absolutely has real-world and sometimes very dangerous consequences. Because when we become vulnerable to believing things that aren't necessarily true, we can easily be taken advantage of. Con artists and fake psychics use a technique called cold reading, which relies heavily on high-probability guesses and the Barnum effect, to drain money from people who are vulnerable, struggling, or grieving. It also shows up a lot in healthcare. Studies show that people will often rate totally bogus, generalized health feedback from unscientific alternative medicine practitioners as highly accurate, and that leads them to pursue treatments that have literally zero scientific basis. The sources also highlight a rapidly growing modern issue, the massive rise of self-diagnosis on social media platforms like TikTok. People will watch a short video describing vague traits like feeling awkward in public, having a messy room, or struggling to focus when you're bored. And thanks to the Barnum effect, they assume these incredibly common human experiences are unique, foolproof indicators that they have ADHD, OCD, or autism. Now, while spreading mental health awareness is definitely a positive thing, experts are actively warning that misattributing normal, everyday quirks to clinical disorders can seriously undermine the actual daily struggles of people with those conditions. Plus, it inappropriately strains professional therapy waitlists, making it a whole lot harder for people who genuinely need urgent help to actually access it. Section 5. Breaking the Spell, Reclaiming Your Independent Mind. So how do we actually protect ourselves from this? Well, we obviously can't rewire our brains completely, but we can empower ourselves with strategies to reclaim our independent decision-making and build up our cognitive defenses. Step 1 is simple. Recognize vague statements. The moment you read something that says you have some personality weaknesses, but you generally compensate for them, take a massive step back and ask yourself, wait, could this apply to literally anyone else? Step 2. Verify information independently. Don't let a psychic, a social media algorithm, or a quick TikTok video be your only source of absolute truth. Seek second opinions, especially from reputable medical professionals or verified data. And step 3, which might be the most surprising, check your daily stress levels. So, the crucial point is how your mental state directly affects your susceptibility. When you are under high stress, experiencing heavy brain fog, or dealing with a crisis, your brain just defaults to mental shortcutting. You're basically running on autopilot, making you far more gullible and way more likely to seek outside validation from a fortune teller or some unscientific online test. But when you actively manage your stress through adequate sleep, mindfulness, and healthy routines, you maintain a low-stress state. And that preserves your cognitive ability to stop, focus, and critically reflect on whatever content is placed in front of you. At the end of the day, just being aware of this cognitive bias is your absolute best defense. It allows you to appreciate a fun personality quiz or a perfectly timed Spotify playlist without letting a sneaky algorithm or a con artist dictate your life choices. So, I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought to carry with you today. The next time the universe seems to be speaking directly and exclusively to you, ask yourself, is it really just speaking to everyone?